In the hushed, dust-moted sanctity of her study, Dr. Aris Thorne reigned supreme. A high priestess of logic, a formidable debunker of the fantastical, her life was a meticulously catalogued archive of ancient civilizations. Her brilliance, sharpened by a cynicism honed over years of dismantling apocalyptic myths and historical distortions. For Aris, every whispered prophecy, every cryptic artifact, was merely a puzzle awaiting a rational solution, a testament to human fallibility, not divine foresight. Her world was neatly ordered, predictable, and profoundly isolated by choice. Then came the package. Anonymous, unmarked, it arrived like a rogue asteroid in her carefully charted universe. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a fragment of obsidian, its surface polished to an unnatural sheen, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. But it wasn't merely its material that arrested her. It was the symbols etched upon its face. They defied classification, belonging to no known ancient script, yet they pulsed with an inexplicable, almost resonant energy that hummed beneath her fingertips. Initial dismissal was her default, a trained reflex. Another elaborate hoax, she reasoned, destined for the discard pile of historical curiosities. Yet the obsidian fragment refused to be dismissed. The singular, recurring symbol, a swirling vortex within a broken circle, began to seep into her reality with insidious grace. It appeared unbidden in the periphery of her vision. A spectral flicker on the edge of a news report, an unsettling pattern in the condensation on her window pane. Most disturbingly, it haunted her dreams, not as a nightmare, but as an insistent, silent whisper. Her analytical mind, so accustomed to dissecting the tangible, found itself grappling with an unsettling, unfathomable anomaly. This wasn't just a relic, it was an echo, growing louder. The first direct whisper came from a ghost of her past, Dr. Elias Vance, once a respected peer, now a pariah in academic circles. Vance had sacrificed his reputation on the altar of fringe theories and an all-consuming obsession with a great convergence in the year 2025. Aris had long dismissed him as a cautionary tale of intellectual dissent, but his voice, crackling over the phone, held an unnerving certainty. He claimed the symbol on her tablet was the key, the missing piece to a puzzle he had dedicated his life to solving. Aris, despite her ingrained skepticism and the precariousness of associating with Vance, felt an undeniable pull. The mystery of the obsidian, now intertwined with the looming shadow of 2025, had begun to unravel her meticulously constructed world, hinting at a truth far more profound and terrifying than any myth she had ever debunked. The obsidian fragment, once a mere curiosity, had become an insidious obsession, a dark star pulling Aris into its orbit. Her study, once a sanctuary of reason, transformed into a crucible of frantic research. Fueled by forgotten meals and the relentless hum of her supercomputer, she pored over ancient texts, cross-referenced obscure astronomical charts, and delved into forgotten mythologies, driven by an inexplicable compulsion to decipher the tablet's alien script. Each sleepless night chipped away at her resolve, her rational mind warring with the undeniable, almost magnetic pull of the artifact. Then, amidst a dizzying array of constellations and cryptic numerical sequences, a pattern emerged. A complex astronomical alignment, chilling in its precision, culminating in a single terrifying date. December 21st, 2025. The exactness of it sent a shiver down her spine, a cold dread that no amount of academic detachment could dispel. Reluctantly, she agreed to meet Vance, the air between them thick with unspoken accusations and a shared, desperate hope. His office, unlike her sterile study, was a labyrinth of dusty tomes, maps scrawled with arcane symbols, and a veritable museum of artifacts, each bearing a variation of the swirling vortex. Vance, his eyes burning with a zeal that bordered on madness, revealed his life's work, a global network of ancient prophecies, each independently foretelling the same event, the same date. This wasn't a localized myth. It was a universal whisper, echoing across millennia, across cultures, all pointing to the Great Convergence. And then, a shocking truth spilled forth, shattering Aris's preconceived notions of apocalypse. Vance explained, with a chilling calm, that these weren't prophecies of destruction, not fire and brimstone, but of transformation. The Great Convergence wasn't a cataclysmic end, but a forced evolution, triggered by an impending cosmic event that would fundamentally alter human consciousness. It would blend reality with something ancient and unseen, a primordial force that had merely slumbered. The true horror, the profound, shocking truth, was that humanity wasn't merely facing an external event, a meteor strike or a solar flare. It was facing an internal shift, a radical redefinition of what it meant to be human. The challenge wasn't about surviving a physical disaster, but about surviving ourselves, adapting to a new reality where the very fabric of perception would be rewritten. Aris's scientific mind screamed in rebellion. Every fiber of her being, trained in the empirical, rejected such a fantastical notion. Yet, the undeniable patterns she had uncovered, the sheer volume of Vance's corroborating evidence, and the growing anomalies around them began to chip away at her skepticism. The world outside her study, once so predictable, started to mirror the impossible. Strange atmospheric phenomena painted the skies. Auroras danced in equatorial regions. Clouds swirled into impossibly geometric formations. Animals exhibited bizarre, collective behaviors, mass migrations of species never before seen together, periods of inexplicable calm followed by frenzied, panicked movements. Fleeting glimpses of distorted realities plagued her waking hours, a momentary shimmer in the air, revealing an ancient cityscape, the faint echo of voices from another time, the unnerving sensation of shared thoughts, like fragments of a collective dream bleeding into her own consciousness. These were not theories. These were empirical observations, undeniable cracks in the veneer of her ordered world, forcing Dr. Aris Thorne, the ultimate debunker, to confront the terrifying possibility that Dr. Elias Vance, the pariah, might just be right. As 2025 loomed, a palpable tension settled over the world, a subtle hum beneath the surface of everyday life. The anomalies, once fleeting and dismissed as isolated incidents, intensified with an alarming regularity, refusing to be ignored. News channels, initially scrambling for rational explanations, now broadcast increasingly bizarre reports. Massive unseasonal dust storms sweeping across continents, their particles shimmering with an unnatural luminescence. Flocks of birds executing complex synchronized aerial ballets before plummeting silently to Earth. And most unsettling, a rash of inexplicable technological glitches, from smart grids flickering offline for seconds at a time, to global communication networks experiencing phantom echoes of ancient, guttural languages. These were not mere coincidences. They were symptoms of a world unraveling, a prelude to the Great Convergence Vance had so desperately warned about. Small, localized blips became more frequent, more vivid, piercing the veil of ordinary existence. People reported seeing ancient structures, towering ziggurats, forgotten temples, even entire primeval forests, appear momentarily, superimposed over modern cityscapes, only to vanish as quickly as they materialized. Whispers, not from any discernible source, began to permeate the ambient noise, fragments of forgotten languages, mournful chants, or disembodied voices speaking in riddles. Most profoundly, individuals reported brief, terrifying moments of shared consciousness, their private thoughts suddenly invaded by the raw emotions, and fragmented memories of strangers, a terrifying glimpse into the blurring lines of individual identity. Aris herself was not immune. Her own blips grew more intense, her waking hours punctuated by impossible visions, the scent of ancient incense in her sterile lab, the fleeting image of a priestess etched into her reflection, the terrifying sensation of her own thoughts being echoed by an unseen presence. Her skepticism, once an impenetrable shield, was now riddled with cracks, each anomaly a hammer blow against her carefully constructed reality. The threat was no longer theoretical, it was visceral, personal. With the clock ticking relentlessly towards December 21st, Aris and Vance realized their mission had shifted from understanding if the convergence would happen to understanding. Its mechanism how to guide humanity through this unprecedented transformation. Their frantic race against time led them down forgotten paths. Following the intricate clues embedded within the obsidian fragments, these weren't just historical artifacts, they were maps guiding them to forgotten temples hidden deep within South American jungles, to submerged caves off the coast of Ireland, and even to obscure, cutting-edge scientific research papers that unknowingly touched upon the very principles of consciousness and reality Vance had been studying for decades. Each discovery, each deciphered symbol, brought them closer to the heart of the enigma. But they were not alone in their pursuit. a shadowy organization known only as the Architects, began to emerge from the periphery, their presence a cold, calculating force. This wasn't a fringe cult. It was a sophisticated, ancient society, or perhaps a clandestine government agency that had been aware of the prophecy for centuries. Their motives remained shrouded in mystery. Were they attempting to control the Convergence for their own ends to harness its power? Or were they desperately trying to suppress it, to maintain the world, as it was, even if it meant sacrificing humanity's potential evolution? Their agents, silent and efficient, seemed to anticipate Aris and Vance's every move, leaving behind subtle warnings, or sometimes outright obstacles. Vance, his gaunt face etched with exhaustion and a growing desperation, became increasingly frantic. He believed he held the key to humanity's future, a fragile hope against an inevitable tide, and the pressure of that belief was slowly consuming him. The stakes had never been higher, not just for them, but for the very essence of human existence. December 21st, 2025, the day arrived not with a bang, but with a silent, breathtaking spectacle that unfolded across the global canvas of the sky. A rare cosmic alignment, predicted by the ancient obsidian and Vance's frantic calculations, painted the heavens with hues previously unseen. Ethereal greens, deep indigos, and pulsating golds shimmered and swirled, casting an otherworldly glow upon a world holding its breath. It was a silent, majestic overture to the Great Convergence. The shift began subtly, a pervasive hum resonating not through the air, but within the very core of being. It wasn't a sudden explosion of light or sound, but a gradual, insidious permeation, like a tide rising within the collective unconscious. Across continents, in bustling cities and remote villages, people experienced a profound, unsettling connection. Individual thoughts, once sacrosanct, began to bleed into each other, a chaotic symphony of raw emotions, fragmented memories, and fleeting images. Reality itself became fluid, the solid ground beneath one's feet seeming to ripple, familiar landscapes momentarily dissolving into impossible geometries before snapping back into place. For some, this merging of minds was a terrifying invasion, a loss of self that plunged them into an abyss of panic and disorientation. For others, a select few, it was a transcendent, overwhelming experience, a glimpse into a boundless empathy, a unity of consciousness that promised an evolution beyond their wildest dreams. Aris and Vance, having followed the Obsidian's labyrinthine map, found themselves at the heart of the Convergence Point, not a forgotten temple, but an ancient, geologically active site deep within the earth, now repurposed as a clandestine observatory by the Architects. The air thrummed with an almost unbearable energy, the very ground vibrating beneath their feet. Here, amidst the flickering readouts of stolen scientific equipment and the humming resonance of the obsidian fragments, they made their final, terrifying discovery. The prophecy wasn't merely a prediction of an inevitable event. It was a guideline, a meticulously crafted path to navigate this new state of being. The ancient symbols, once indecipherable, now glowed with an internal light, revealing a complex sequence of mental and emotional adjustments, a blueprint for conscious evolution. The shocking truth was not that humanity was doomed, but that it must change, that the old ways of isolated consciousness were no longer viable. Aris, her historian's mind, now a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern understanding, stood at the precipice of a decision that would define humanity's future. Should they resist this profound, unsettling transformation, clinging to the familiar but dying world, or should they embrace it, using the ancient guidelines to shepherd humanity through this radical rebirth? Accepting that the very definition of being human was about to be rewritten, the fate of consciousness, the very essence of what it meant to exist, rested on her choice. The immediate intensity of the convergence gradually subsided, leaving in its wake a world irrevocably altered, yet still spinning. The cosmic alignment faded, the sky returning to its familiar blue. The blips, those fleeting glimpses of distorted reality and shared consciousness, were no longer anomalies. They were a constant, albeit manageable, part of the new reality, like a persistent hum beneath the surface of existence. Communication, once solely reliant on spoken words and visible gestures, had evolved into something far more profound and unsettling. Empathy, a faint echo in the old world, was now heightened to an almost unbearable degree, a direct conduit to the raw emotions of others. This newfound connection, while offering unprecedented understanding, also carried the terrifying potential for chaos. A wave of collective fear or anger could ripple through the global consciousness, threatening to overwhelm individual minds. Aris, the once unyielding skeptic, found herself transformed into an unlikely, reluctant leader. Her profound historical knowledge, now illuminated by a direct understanding of the ancient symbols and the mechanisms of the Convergence, became humanity's most vital resource. She moved with a newfound purpose. Her voice, once reserved for academic debates, now a beacon of guidance for a bewildered world. She interpreted the ancient symbols not as mere prophecies, but as a meticulously crafted map for navigating this new, interconnected existence. A guide to understanding the subtle shifts in perception and the delicate balance of shared consciousness. Vance, his life's work, finally vindicated, watched her with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. The madness in his eyes had receded, replaced by a profound weariness. The immense weight of a world transformed, resting heavily on his shoulders. He had found his truth, but it came with the daunting responsibility of a new dawn. The story concludes with a poignant glimpse into this nascent, altered world. Humanity was still recognizably human, yet profoundly different. The challenges were immense. Learning to filter the constant influx of shared thoughts, grappling with the loss of absolute individual privacy, and forging new societal structures in a reality where the lines between self and other were perpetually blurred. Yet, amidst these daunting hurdles, new possibilities bloomed with breathtaking potential. The heightened empathy fostered an unprecedented level of understanding and cooperation, hinting at a future free from the old divisions. Creativity surged, fueled by a collective wellspring of ideas. The very concept of existence had expanded, offering new avenues for connection, understanding, and a deeper, more profound experience of life. The shocking truth that had once threatened to unravel them all was not an end, but a radical, terrifying, yet ultimately hopeful new beginning, a testament to humanity's capacity for evolution, even when forced to confront the deepest mysteries of its own being.